Angela's heart pounded in her chest as she watched Buster grow more vicious. The living room was a mess, furniture overturned, books scattered everywhere, and the sound of Buster's relentless barking echoed off the walls. Angela, a beautiful young woman, lived in Lagos, Nigeria. Life had not been easy for her. She lost her mother when she was just 10 years old. And since then, Angela sleeps with her dog almost every day, something she started when she was younger. Angela had a dog named Buster, but lately, something strange had been happening. Angela began feeling a different kind of attachment to Buster, something she couldn't explain, not even to herself. At first, it was just harmless companionship. Angela would spend hours playing with Buster, talking to him like he was her best friend. But as the days and years passed, their bond became something more, something dangerous. Angela found herself becoming too close to the dog in ways she knew were wrong, doing things intimately with him. But despite her strange feelings for Buster, Angela continued her relationship with Emeka. Emeka was sweet, caring, and always showered her with love. Yet, deep down, Angela couldn't help but feel torn. Her affection for Buster grew stronger, and sometimes she felt like she was living two different lives, one with Emeka and another with Buster. Things took a turn for the worse one evening when Emeka came over to visit Angela. They were sitting in her living room, chatting happily, when Buster suddenly growled from the corner of the room. It wasn't a playful growl like before, it was a deep, angry sound that sent chills down Angela's spine. "Angela, what's wrong with Buster?" Emeka asked, frowning as he glanced at the dog. "He looks like he's about to attack." Angela tried to laugh it off, though her heart raced. "Oh, don't mind him. He's just being protective." But Emeka wasn't convinced. Buster's growls grew louder, and his eyes were fixed on Emeka with a fierce intensity that Angela had never seen before. Suddenly, Buster stood up and started walking toward them. Angela could feel the tension in the air. She quickly got up, trying to block Buster's path, but the dog wouldn't stop. His growl became more vicious, and Angela knew this wasn't just normal behavior. Buster was angry, and it was because of her. "Buster, no!" Angela shouted, grabbing his collar, but Buster didn't back down. His eyes were full of rage as he snarled at Emeka. Emeka stood up, now clearly alarmed. "Angela, what's going on? Why is your dog acting like this?" Angela didn't know how to answer. She knew why Buster was upset, but how could she tell Emeka? How could she explain that she had been betraying him with the very dog that was now ready to attack? In a panic, Angela dragged Buster back, trying to calm him down. "It's okay, Buster. Calm down, please." But Buster wasn't listening. His growls turned into furious barks, and he lunged toward Emeka, his sharp teeth flashing in the dim light. Emeka jumped back, grabbing a chair to protect himself as Buster snapped at him. "Angela, control your dog," Emeka shouted, his voice full of fear. Angela's hands shook as she held on to Buster's collar, but the dog was too strong. He broke free from her grip, his growl turning into a serious attack. Angela watched in horror as Buster leaped at Emeka, knocking over a table in the process. "Get back, Buster. Stop!" Angela screamed, but Buster wasn't stopping. He was out of control, his eyes glowing with anger and betrayal. It was like he knew everything, and he was ready to take revenge. Emeka swung the chair in front of him, trying to keep Buster away, but the dog was relentless. He barked louder, baring his teeth as he advanced toward Emeka. Angela's heart pounded in her chest. She had never seen Buster like this. The dog she once loved had turned into a beast, and it was all because of her. She knew Buster felt betrayed, and now he was taking out his anger on Emeka. "Emeka, run!" Angela cried, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her face. She didn't know what else to do. Buster had become too dangerous, and there was no stopping him. But Emika didn't want to leave Angela behind. "I'm not leaving you with this monster. Come with me." Just as Emika reached for Angela, Buster lunged again, this time aiming straight for Emika's leg. Emika jumped back just in time, narrowly avoiding the attack. The room was filled with the sound of barking and crashing furniture as Buster destroyed everything in his path. Angela knew she had to act fast. She grabbed a nearby broom and swung it toward Buster, trying to distract him. "Buster, stop. Please." But Buster was no longer the gentle dog she once knew. He was consumed by rage, his eyes wild with fury. Angela realized that this was no ordinary dog anymore, this was a creature bent on revenge. As Buster charged again, Angela's mind raced. She had to make a choice, protect Emika, or let the terrible secret she had been hiding destroy them all. The night seemed endless, filled with the sound of Buster's growls and Emika's desperate attempts to protect himself. And as Angela stood there, watching the chaos unfold, she knew that this was only the beginning of Buster's revenge. What would happen next? Would Buster stop, or had Angela's betrayal unleashed a fury that could never be calmed? Angela's heart pounded in her chest as she watched Buster grow more vicious by the second. The living room was a mess, furniture overturned, books scattered everywhere, and the sound of Buster's relentless barking echoed off the walls. "Angela, we need to stop him, now." Emika shouted, struggling to keep the chair between him and the enraged dog. Angela felt trapped, her mind spinning. She loved Buster, but she knew he had changed. The bond they once shared had become something dark, something uncontrollable. Now, her secret was out, even if she hadn't said the words. Buster knew, and he was determined to punish Emika for it. Taking a deep breath, Angela ran toward the kitchen, her eyes scanning for something that could help. Her hands trembled as she grabbed a leash and a bottle of cold water. Maybe she could calm Buster down, just enough to stop this madness. "Emika, hang on." Angela yelled as she rushed back into the room. Buster was inches away from Emika, snapping at him, his teeth just missing Emika's arm. Angela's voice cracked as she shouted, "Buster, no. Stop it right now." But Buster didn't listen. His eyes blazed with fury, and Angela knew she had only one option left. Without hesitation, she unscrewed the bottle cap and splashed the cold water directly on Buster's face. The dog froze for a moment, blinking in confusion as the water drenched his fur. The growling stopped, just for a second, but Angela saw her chance. She quickly wrapped the leash around Buster's neck and pulled him back with all her strength. "Come on, Buster. It's over." Buster resisted at first, his body tense as he struggled against the leash. But Angela didn't let go. She pulled harder, her eyes filled with tears as she fought to control the dog she had once loved so much. "Please, Buster. Don't do this," she whispered, her voice barely audible. For a brief moment, Buster's gaze softened, and he looked at Angela as if he recognized her again. The anger in his eyes faded, replaced with something like sadness. But then, as quickly as it appeared, that softness vanished, and Buster growled again, though weaker this time. Angela's heart broke as she realized what she had to do. This wasn't the Buster she knew. Something inside him had changed forever, and there was no going back. She tightened her grip on the leash, pulling him toward the door. "Emika, help me," she cried, her voice shaking. Emika, still recovering from the shock, rushed over and helped Angela drag Buster outside. They locked the door behind them, both breathing heavily as they collapsed onto the ground, but Buster wouldn't stop barking outside. The night air was somehow cool, and for the first time in what felt like hours, everything suddenly became quiet. Angela wiped her tears, her hands trembling as she leaned against the wall. "Angela, what just happened?" Emeka asked, his voice soft but filled with concern. "Why did Buster attack me like that?" Angela closed her eyes, feeling a wave of guilt wash over her. She had been hiding the truth for too long, and now everything was falling apart. She didn't want to lie anymore. "It's my fault," she whispered. I got too close to Buster. Too close in a way I shouldn't have. He was jealous, Emeka. He felt betrayed because of me." Emeka stared at her in shock, unable to find the words. He stand beside her, the weight of Angela's confession heavy in the air. "I never meant for it to go this far," Angela continued, her voice breaking. "I loved him like a friend, but then, it became something more. I didn't realize how much I was hurting him, or you." Emeka shook his head slowly, his expression unreadable. "Angela, this isn't normal. You need help, and Buster. I don't think it's safe for him to stay with you anymore." Angela nodded, tears streaming down her face. She knew Emeka was right, but the thought of losing Buster tore her apart inside. Still, after what had happened, there was no choice. "I'll call the animal shelter tomorrow," she said quietly. "They'll take care of him." Emeka placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll get through this, Angela. But you have to be honest with me, with yourself. No more secrets." Angela nodded again, her heart heavy with regret. She had let her emotions lead her down a dark path, and now she had to face the consequences. As she sat there, staring at the door where Buster had once stood, she couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if she had never let things go this far. The next morning, the shelter came to pick up Buster. Angela watched from the window as they led him away, her chest tight with sorrow. He looked back at her once, his eyes sad but no longer filled with rage. It was as if he understood that this was goodbye. As the van drove off, Angela wiped her eyes and turned to Emeka, who stood beside her, offering silent support. She knew she had a long road ahead, but with Emeka by her side, she felt a glimmer of hope. "I'm sorry," she whispered, and Emeka gave her a small smile. "We'll be okay," he said, taking her hand. Thanks for watching. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on your notification to be notified when we post new videos. Do you mind telling us where you are watching from?